But let's get back to the Get Active strategy. Like I said, I'm pretty sure there will be a revised version of Get Active, if not a complete rip-up of it. A, because I think it's unrealistic, the targets that were in Get Active, and B, like I said, new governments like to put a new spin on things, and as part of kind of putting their stamp on the work that they're doing. And so it's likely that Get Active will probably not survive this term of the Parliament. The target is probably unrealistic. The 700,000 disabled people more active by 2030. So it'll be interesting to see what target, if any target, is provided for more physical activity and sport. But there are a number of challenges. There are a number of challenges that are going to await this Labour government. So during the campaign, if you are not from the UK context, or even if you are from the UK context and were not intrigued or enthralled by the very long campaign period, lots of talk has been about the tax, or the Conservative claims are about tax for Labour. Labour have been very clear about many different taxes that are not going to go up, but then equally at the same time, the Institute of Fiscal Studies were saying that there are a number of cuts that are priced in terms of what public sector and services are going to experience based on the current projection for what the budgets have been agreed. And so without raising tax or finding another way to raise money significantly, the choice essentially is either raise tax, invest in public services, or keep taxes as they are, but actually you're going to have a cut of public services. So if we're thinking about that as a priority or a challenge, how is that going to be resolved? And if there is not a support for public services because of the tax agenda being kept as it is now, as part of the pledges that were made, then that's going to be really tricky to try and support, to say people to be active and participate in sport. We know from the research that disabled people generally do use public sector services more than non-disabled people when it comes to sport and physical activity. So if there are challenges to the services that I provide, that's going to hinder attempts to try and get more people active. Also, another point to consider is that it's going to be very low on the priority list. Like I said earlier, there's a lot of work that Labour need to try and do, and a lot of challenges for the country. So sport and physical activity will probably quite low in terms of the priority going forward. And also, if we're looking for local solutions to some of the physical activity and sport challenges that we experience, a lot of local councils, a lot of local authorities have got significant financial constraints too. So again, what is going to happen there? And I think a final point, just as a quick kind of reaction to the Labour landslide, is that there needs to be a consultation with disabled people. Well, Laura, when we had our live event a few months ago now, she was referring to the fact that it kind of felt like the strategy was talking about disabilities as if there was no consultation process, there was no co-production, and I think that's important. There needs to be an understanding of how can we all work together to support the end goal, the end target. And I think that one other final point is that targets are important, numbers are important, but also we need to consider the experiences of physical activity and sport. And this is something that Professor Fitzgerald talked about. Are we able to offer a compelling opportunity and experience for, say, people to be active and to participate in sport? And if so, that potentially might help with a more regular participation rather than just focusing on numbers. So lots to consider. First reaction, recorded 10:45, 10:55. So who knows what the situation will be like when you're listening to this or watching this video. But it's something to consider, and it's definitely going to be an interesting period. Different government in charge, and something to consider and to watch. I'm really interested to get your thoughts. Do catch up on the previous episode where we had the live recording where we discussed the Get Active strategy in more detail. You can check that out on the feeds in terms of the Disability Sport Info podcast.